A while back, I did a video on Gradius for the NES and the arcade. After working through that video, I continued to play the NES version of Gradius on a regular basis. While I liked the game prior to the video, I fell in love with it during the production. I challenged myself to beat it without dying, and eventually I was able to accomplish that. I had a little push from Aggro Sky, aka the Shmup Master, when he decided he wanted to do a Gradius video on his channel. He asked me to participate, so I went ahead and finally finished my one-life run of the iconic shooter. Soon afterwards, I took a trip to my local game store, Grumpy Bob's. They had recently just started selling Famicom games, and they had a Gradius 2 in stock. I jumped on it because I wanted some more NES Gradius action, and I was not disappointed. Gradius 2 was released on various systems, including the Famicom in Japan, but not on the West's NES. Gamers here missed out on a classic. This game is amazing, it looks and sounds great, and while there is some slowdown in some places, it actually runs pretty dang good otherwise. Now, to play this game physically, I have to use an adapter for my NES. I've done a video on this previously, but I just want to point out that Hyperkin did a really good job on this. It does the job, and it's pretty cheap to pick up. Gradius 2 uses a special Konami-made mapper for storing sprites or some such, but you don't have to worry about missing out on any expanded sound like you would on the Japanese release of Castlevania 3. Gradius 2 opens with a static picture of Vic Viper, and then the title screen. Nothing flashy here, but it's okay. As soon as you start the game, you'll notice that you actually have the ability to choose a weapon loadout. Your missiles, double shot, and laser type all have several configurations, with a tailgun and ripple laser being new to Gradius 2. The missiles have 4 configurations, the standard one from the first game, a spread bomb, which is my personal favorite, photon torpedo, and a two-way. I usually go with the spread bomb because when it blows up, the explosion lasts several seconds, allowing you to strategically use it to take out multiple enemies, or even bomb bosses and hit their weak points from above when you would normally have to wait for an opening from the front. Starting out, Gradius 2 wants to beat you down right away. It's not an easy game. Both the first Gradius and Life Force are considerably easier, though at least early on, Gradius 2 gives you a better chance to power back up after a death. There are a lot of enemies that give you power-up icons this time around, so make use of it. Level 1 sees the Vic Viper traveling through some sort of star cluster. If you touch any of the fire you've seen on screen, it's death. Dragons snake their way out of the stars and little enemy bases launch fighters at you. It's not too hard to navigate, but then comes the tough part. Solar flares. Solar flares! Until you get the pattern down, you'll die a lot here. It took me a long time to figure out how to navigate this area without taking a death. The gameplay is pretty straightforward after this. It's just a lot of avoiding enemy fire and taking down bosses. Some bosses you'll remember from previous games, like the core boss from the original Gradius and the brain boss from Life Force. Others are new to this series and bring new and interesting methods to take them down. I can't talk about how this game looks and sounds enough. During the second level, you'll really notice that Konami feel. This level actually looks and sounds a lot more like a Contra game, with aliens sprouting from eggs, the skull motifs, and the epic music. While the enemies assault the Vic Viper with a barrage of bullets, Gradius 2 is assaulting your senses with a barrage of awesome. Seriously, why do you write this stuff? Other levels include a mountain and volcano area reminiscent of the first level in Gradius 1, a crystal area that would remind you of Gradius 3's bubble area if you played that game first, more Moai heads, a pretty difficult boss rush, and this is where I died a ton, and the final levels including a speed zone and a pretty technically impressive giant boss that moves around the screen. This was a big deal for the 8-bit hardware at the time. Clearing this game is a pretty daunting task. Maybe not as hard as playing through countless other tough games without dying, but man, this one has put me through the ringer. I keep coming back for more though, and that's when you know a difficult game has hit that sweet spot between nuts crushingly hard and addictive. I was able to keep up and finish it without losing a life. That's the thing about Gradius games. Finishing it with one life is the way to go. If you die, you lose everything, and while the earlier levels are more forgiving, the later ones don't give you the same amount of power-ups to help you catch back up. The bosses are big and intense. The level designs are actually really neat compared to the seemingly sparse levels in the first Gradius, and the ability to select various power-ups gives the player different ways to play through. The difficulty also hits that sweet spot of just hard and fair enough to keep you coming back for more. Gradius 2 is a phenomenal game for the Famicom and one I highly recommend playing. Now, if you want even more info on Gradius 2, don't forget to check out Shmup video on his channel, where me, the Bug Doctor, Nefarious Wes, and the Shmup Master himself have dueling side by side, one life, no miss runs with full commentary. Thanks for watching. Later.